Welcome back to the VCT Game Changes Overtime here today. I will be your caster, Grammy with a Z, and joining me today here is Quack. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. I mean, this is now lower bracket games. We got an elimination match coming up, so that's gonna be pretty nerve-wracking, I think. But yeah, Grammy with a Z. I mean, coming from VCT Game Changers Academy, and now she's here on the substream. Like that's pretty freaking cool.
Okay. Honestly, I'm pretty nervous, but it's so cool to be finally here today and watching these main teams play. So I'm really excited for the matchup we have today, which is gonna be between Fear Eater Sierra and Big Scythe.
Yeah, two teams who have actually played for quite a while. They've already made several times into the VCT Opens, but here they are now, overtime, and unfortunately only one of them will be able to make it for it. But of course, we got to go through our usual introductions, so we'll be taking a look at the format pretty soon. We are in overtime right now. Moving after that, that's going to be last chance qualifiers. Again, this is all for the teams to actually qualify for VCT Game Changers APAC Elite. And the top team, only one slot, unfortunately, for now. The one top team for VCT Game Changers APAC Elite gets to move forward to VCT Game Changers APAC Champions, as it were, sometime this year. I wonder who that's going to be. We'll find out. But of course, right now, again, just qualifying every single team. I believe 3 teams from Open Overtime will be the only ones to make it through. And we actually found out the first team yesterday, didn't we, Grammy?
Yeah, we did. It was a super intense match between X10 Sapphire and Orangutan, but Orangutan, they just made it work for them. There was a 1-11 comeback to 14-12, I believe, and that was so insane to watch. That game was just had me on the edge of my seat. But for the second seed, we do have Elstrix versus Zol Meraki. So these two teams that we are going to be seeing here today, they're actually going to be fighting for a chance for the final seed from overtime.
Absolutely. I mean, so many teams, but unfortunately, only 3 of them can make it through this stage. And so many of them have already been eliminated, as we can see by this huge bracket that we have right now. X10 Sapphire, unfortunately, weren't able to put up much of a show against Orangutan, but they're not out of the tournament yet. They're going down towards the low bracket semifinals, where they will play against Nigma Galaxy, I believe, tomorrow. The one that we have, of course, like you mentioned earlier, Grammy, is Big Scythe versus Fear Eater Sierra. Only one of them will be able to make it through. And then on the mainstream, we've got L Streaks versus Zol Meraki. Only one of those will be able to qualify. The other one gets sent down, and that's what's going to happen tomorrow. Big Scythe or Fear Eater Sierra versus L Streaks or Zol Meraki.
So I'm just very nervous also, but I'm super excited here today. Yeah, so I guess let's talk about the teams a little bit, right? So, which team do you think we might have the I guess an edge above their opponents?
I mean, you're putting me on the spot already. I love it. It's a bit tough to say. We haven't even gone through map select and agent selection yet, but having seen both these teams before and having kind of done a little bit of admin work for both of them as well, I mean, historically, you would kind of think about Big Scythe because they made it to Elite last year. They have Margot, who used to be on Alter Ego Celeste, on their roster right now. They actually stand a pretty good chance. But at the same time, we got to pay attention to to Fear Eater Sierra, who were formerly known as Scamdang, but we'll dive into that a little bit much more later on. Big Scythe right now, though, of course, we've got Crescents, Yamori, Afrelin, Margot, and Giver, and a full Indonesian squad, and they've got quite a bit of experience. And I believe Margot is also, giving them quite a bit of help as well, since she has experience from being on Alter Ego Celeste.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Margot has been so strong and her performances so far throughout the whole Game Changer series. And let's talk about the other team that's going to be playing here today, Fear Eater Sierra. And all the Thailand team, as you mentioned, formerly known as Gamdang, but now they're known as FES. And right now, the roster is going to be PG, Malvi, Penny X, Pan Miles, and X2F today.
Yeah, exactly. These Thai squads, they are incredibly strong, and I think one of the players, excuse me, to actually look out for is definitely Pan Mile, because I've seen her play before. I've done some admin work for her before, and I swear to God, I kind of thought she was cheating because
Oh,
she plays a controller most of the time, and she's really smart at how she figures out where her opponents might be positioned through game sense, and she just gets so many kills through smokes. She weaves in and out of those things as well, and sometimes you just have no idea what hit you, and it looks kind of sus, but she's just really that good. She's that smart, and it's certainly something that people need to keep an eye out for.
yeah, definitely. And I do think we do have the map select out already, right? So, um, yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So, on the side of Fear Eater, they are going to be banning out both Haven and Breeze. So, and on the side of Big Scythe, they ban out Split and Bind. So, the maps that we are going to be seeing today will be Ascent, which was picked by FES, and Fracture for the second map as well, which I'm actually super excited about because Fracture is my favorite map. And the final map, if we do get to the third map, will be on Icebox.
Yeah, and this is just something that kind of taking a look at the statistics that we have for both teams. It really just shows how comfortable they are on most of these maps, how comfortable they are on most of these picks, because they don't have the best performance on Haven or Split, and they straight up banned those two maps right off the bat. Moving forward, Ascent is actually a big favorite for most of these teams, but I do think that Fury to Sierra actually has a better performance on it thus far. They have a win percentage of 88%, which is just really freaking high. I think Pan Mile just plays like insanely strong on this one as well, given the controller agents that she plays, especially when she's on Brimstone or Astra sometimes. It's so much map control that Big Scythe, with their really methodical approach, sometimes might not actually work out too well against them. I think I'm going to want to see Big Scythe to go in a little bit more duelist heavy, a little bit more aggressive for this one, because if they don't take Ascent off of this series, they might struggle on Fracture, excuse me.
Yeah, that is true. On the side of Big Side, they do have an 80% win rate on Fractures. So I do think that's a pretty really strong statistic to show that they do have the methodological approach to when it comes to attacking on a map like Fracture, right? You have so many choke points to enter from, so you really have to kind of get that information. So and from that, you can just kind of make a decision on where you want to go and execute on a site. And yeah.
Yeah, Fracture. I mean, you clearly love it. I used to not be such a huge fan of it, but I'm starting to warm up to it now. I think it's something that people can start to figure out, especially when you control portions of the map, such as A main. And as a defender, you just constantly push out all the time. You keep your attackers on their toes, and there's so many fun ways that you can play around with that. But of course, the way that these teams approach it can be really different. It's 5v5 after all, so it's not like ranked that we're used to playing. It's tough to really analyze and predict, but that's why we've got to go into game pretty soon to figure all that out. But moving on, the first thing that we have, of course, Ascent. We talked about it. It's a classic map, and moving into Agent Select. I mean, what do you think the picks are going to be, Grammy?
I mean, agents like I think for the side of for Big Scythe at least, I do think that we're gonna see maybe I'm not really sure, but I think one of the more dominant the agents that I picked the most would probably be the Jet and the Sova. So I think we're gonna be seeing those agents come out on the side of both teams actually.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like classic picks, right? For Ascent, of course, you're gonna have the Sofa because the information just provides that much utility, and at the same time, Jet as a duelist can cover up so much space. You can do interesting, sneaky peeks with the updraft at times, and just dashing in is a great entry tool as well. So I think that's a very common staple for the teams right here. But the thing that I'm kind of looking out for is is it going to be a mirror match? Because looking at how they've played this map before in the past, they actually play the exact same lineup. Of course, Jet Sova, like you mentioned, Grammy. Sentinel will be Killjoy, Controller, Omen, and then they have another initiator to fill out the last spot. And more often than not, we see them actually picking KO.
Yeah, actually, I think KO is a really strong pick on Ascent, especially because that 0 point can give you so much information. It can even suppress you. So it's really good to counter maybe like Killjoy setups that usually they'll be set up on like one of the sides, and if you can shut down a Killjoy, you have a much easier time executing on the side that the Killjoy is at.
Exactly, right? I mean, there are so many ways you can deal with Killjoy utility. That's why I think if you're playing the Killjoy and you're the only anchor on the site, it's very important that you stay alive because your utility is only going to do that much. Nanostorms can be broken by shock darts, if I'm not wrong. Still, probably. I hope there's no bug or anything. But yeah, it can also be like locked out because of KO utility, for example. The 0 point is a very useful tool, not just for information, but definitely ability suppression. And that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye out for as well.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think? The controller pick, you did mention Omen, I believe it was.
Yep.
Oh, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm still between the debate between Omen and Astra on Ascent, but most of the time I do see teams picking out the Omen now because there was that Astra nerf that reduced her stars from 5 to 4, and I think that was a pretty big nerf for her as well as the cooldown on most of her abilities. So I do think we see a lot more teams picking the Omen up as well. So, but speaking about agents, we are gonna be heading into the agent select right now, so we are gonna find out what these teams here today are gonna be playing.
Yeah, heading on to that really soon. And of course, we see the Omen being picked. It is, in fact, that exact same mirror matchup. So this comes down to strats. This comes down to how they actually execute them, because it's actually rather similar. The one difference might just be Malvise versus Yamori, Jet versus Raze. But nope, they went back to Jet, so straight up the same.
Mirror matchup it is. So I really think this is gonna come down to how well these teams can read each other and kind of adapt to each other's playstyle here.
Yeah, very much so, because with the exact same agent composition, the differences are really minor. You can't chalk things up to lacking different utilities, different abilities. Everything's the same. The one difference just might be how the team actually performs around that. And going back to your earlier point, I mean, if there's any indication of how these teams will play, I think the controller is definitely one of them, because picking an Omen over something like an Astra just means that you want that flexibility. Astra, really incredible controller, of course. You have that more global presence with her stars, her astral form. But the thing is, you need to stay within astral form to actually deploy those stars, and it takes a little bit of time to get in and out of that animation. Whereas Omen might be a little bit faster. Paranoia allows you to get in a little bit more aggressive at times. So some people actually use Omen as a bit of that initiator / controller catalyst type of thing. I think Maxi is one very good example of that in VCT MYSG. So I think these teams, they are probably trying to emulate that and play to a similar style of going a little bit more flexible. You can play defensive, you can also play aggressive if you want to. So it's going to be important for us to keep an eye on the controllers right here, and I believe that's going to be again Panmile versus Crescents.
Oh, it's gonna be Margot on Omen actually. So first round starts right off. We're gonna have a little bit of action down in A main here. The suppress from the defending side already coming through to try and gather a little bit of information, but I think this time around they might not be able to expect that there are going to be 3 players stacked outside of Garden, which they are going to be taking control of right now, as Afron is going to find that first pick onto Malvai, finds 2 actually onto Pichu, so right now it's going to be a 5v3 situation in favor of Big Scythe.
Yeah, instantly pushing in. I don't think they were quite expecting that hit. They managed to delay it by a second with the fragment, but still, it's just the big Scythe squad and then continue to slice and dice all the way into the site, and now they have full control over it.
Speaking of full control, it seems like this side of FTR, they are going to be heading into this retake really soon. Penny X with the Sheriff isn't going to find anything at all, as Yamori, Giver, and Margot are going to find all three members of the remaining squad of FTR. So they are going to be picking up that pistol round really quick. So coming to this next round, they will be buying up those Spectres, which most likely will guarantee them a second unless FTR are able to pull something, a miracle out of the bag here, because they are going to be running on classics for the most part, except for Pen Melee, who is going to be opting for a Sheriff instead.
Yeah, controller, you're probably playing further to the back, but in this round, they're more often than not just going for info, trying to do as much damage as possible, possibly pick up a gun or two, but given the positions right now, so much control being taken over mid as well as short, Pan Melee is in a bit of a hairy situation and has to back up, but she's backing up into her opponents.
That is definitely not good, but there is going to be a player waiting with a shorty in A main. So I don't know if the side of Big Scythe, they are going to be expecting this. They do, because Giver is going to use that nano sub to delay that push in from the A main position, giving them full side control. So this is going to be a really difficult retake if they do choose to go for this FDR. But it seems like they are going to be playing for exit frags instead. Try to get as much economic damage as they can on the side of Big Scythe and get those Spectres off of their hands.
If it's even possible, of course. I mean, at the most, they get to trap Big Scythe into the spike explosion, or the spike explosion. But wow, okay, Shorty, direct impact, and she does do quite a bit of damage. They are still trapped inside of this site. The only thing that's blocking their exit is pretty much X2F, who just got taken out by Yamori.
Yeah, and just like that, it is gonna be Big Scythe who are picking up the second round, but not before losing 4 of their members. That's 4 Spectres down for them. Coming to this next round, the side of FTR, I do believe they are gonna be able to buy up, except for Penny X.
It's quite a heavy loss, especially for Big Scythe. I mean, take a look at their buys right now. Fury Eater Sierra, on the other hand, they've got basically everything going right for them. Penny X, yes, it might be a Spectre, but it's still heavy shields, and that's the most important thing. They're going to be a little bit more comfortable with their defenses this time around, looking at how they've set things up towards the B site. Killjoy utilities all across, and Penny X to get info, or just a shot dart tag, but wow, Big Scythe not slowing down at all.
Definitely not slowing down, as Yamori, she tailwinds her way on to a switch. So she's going to be taking a lot of space for a team, and it's all up to Penny X to try and hold on the side. Finds the first one onto Presence. Is she able to find more? Unfortunately, it's going to run out of bullets at the wrong time, as Yamori able to find her instead for that trade. But X2F with that Phantom able to pick up Yamori as well. The site is going to be planted on the B side. So let's see how the side of Big Scythe, they are going to be playing this post plant here.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at how they're actually holding these post-plant positions. They just don't quite have the guns to withstand the damage, so it's easy for Fury Eater Sierra to run them down with their Spectres, their rifles, everything, all the automatic weapons. And we're going for that standard 2-to-1 start.
2-to-1 start, and I do think on the side of FTR, they are going to be saving a lot of those weapons. So coming to this next round, I think this round is going to be really important for both teams here. If on the side of Big Scythe, they really don't want to give an inch to FTR right now, because if they do, it means the next FTR, they are going to be having the economy to be able to play full rifles for the next few rounds, and I don't think Big Scythe want that at all. But the ultimates are going to be coming online really soon, but Presence is going to take out the head of Pen Melee right there. That's the opening pick, the Omen on the side of FTR down already.
And it's a huge pick as well because this way they lose information, they lose control over middle, which allows for Big Scythe to push in along with this B split. They've gotten control over market, which means the only way that Fear Eater can actually hold this is all the way from site itself or CT, which is really tough unless Penny X can pull off some miracle, but she does not. And here comes the hit and control over site being granted over to Big Scythe.
Yeah, and Peachy trying to do as much damage as she can right here, but Yamori gonna spot her out first. Movi trying to go in aggressive, but unfortunately, unfortunately for her, it's Yamori who's gonna be cleaning up both of the remaining players on the side of FTR. So looks like they are gonna be in the lead right now, and I think this was a really good execute coming out of Big Scythe, because once they got the mid control, they were able to just easily isolate the player towards Boathouse, and just like that, they got a site, they got their post plant positions, and they were able to play it really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, this is just textbook Valorant at play right now. Fear Eater and Big Scythe. Fear Eater, I think they're going for more of a default defense, at least from before. But right now, look at this push coming down the middle.
That means the Malvi has so much information that there's no one outside B main, no one in mid. That means there's only one place that Big Scythe could go, and that is A, which is gonna be their domain as they all run onto the A side and gonna get the spike down as well. So this is gonna be a 5v5 retake situation for FTR right here.
And that's, even with the lockdown, maybe not the best thing that they could go for. It's an easy lineup that tries to block them off, clears out the back of Wine. It's an interesting setup, but now all they have is space on the site itself. Big Scythe still can spray through that dark cover.
That is true, and that is exactly what they're gonna try and do, but Margot already behind and finds 3-4 herself as Crescent and Aphrodite both clean out the round with a flawless coming out of Big Scythe. Really well played from Margot right there. She was just able to go all the way, flank the whole of Fear Eater Sierra, right? And just like that, I don't think they were expecting that at all. So she was able to pick up 3 kills right there, which really won them the round.
Definitely MVP of that round, and that's why I was saying you got to pay attention to these controller players, especially Margot. She's one of the star fraggers for Big Scythe right now, and it's just smart positional plays. Of course, when you place lockdown, the last thing you expect is for your opponents to come from that same exact spot. But right now, back to a default hold. Fear Eater trying to switch things up to prevent Big Scythe from picking up that mid control.
Yeah, this round is gonna be they're gonna be playing a default, but Yamori is gonna be spotting out a player towards mid. That's Pen Melee right there. So they do have information that there is a player of Big Scythe towards mid, but right now it seems like not much has been done, except I do think Yamori, she has made quite a bit of has gained quite a bit of map control into this mid market position, right? The cloud burst to come out as well as she tries to fall back. So Crescent is gonna be spotting our Malvi as well. So reinforcements on the side of Fear Eater Sarah are gonna be coming in. And as the fragment comes out to try and delay this push, Crescent's already pushed up towards Lost. I don't think they're expecting this, as Yamori finds the first pick onto Malvite as the opening pick going their way, and Peachy trying to hold on to this boathouse position. This is so important for her right now, but Margot able to find 2, but not before Peachy and Pen Melee. They have something to say about it.
And Efferlin finds the trade, but of course, that just does not favor Fear Eater Sierra in terms of numbers. I mean, coming down to it, it was absolutely crucial for the Fear Eater Sierra players to actually anchor down the site, but maybe getting a little bit eager and at the same time leaving Peachy alone by herself. It was a little bit easier for Big Scythe to just overwhelm and take quick control over the site, and this is something that we've seen several times from Big Scythe now. Even with mid control being denied, as long as Big Scythe are able to keep formation and break through the site, they are able to take quick control and then hold it post-blind.
It's true, and immediately into this 7th round, there are going to be some players pushing towards this mid once again. Yamori already pushed all the way up near market. I don't know if Malvi is aware of this, as spray is going to come through for the side of Big Scythe. Penmele trying to do a little bit of chip damage on the players of Big Scythe, but it's Malvi who finds the first pick with that Sheriff. But still, she has 8 health to her name right now. Penmele trying to go in once again for that Sheriff one tap, and unfortunately she's just gonna be able to chip off some damage onto Crescents, but Crescents responds back in favor by taking out Penny X.
And this just continues forward as this becomes a big choke point. Penmele and Pishi, they are still alive on the other side. It's going to take some big guns to actually break through it, and they will be able to push on through. This gives them control over A, but of course, Malvi all the way on the back. She's got the Blade Storm, she's got a Sheriff, but only 8 points of health, Grammy. What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, she does have a gun as well, so if she really... I do think she has to play this. She has to isolate her gunfights really well here, but I don't think Big Scythe, they are going to be giving her that chance at all. So she's going to be coming in from this guarded position, Tailwind at the ready, but both players on the side of Big Scythe are going to be playing from Hell. And this Owl Drone come out to scan some information for Big Scythe as well. The turret is going to be making the first contact here, so they do know where Malvi is going to be chipped down once again. My 3 health now has 5 health to a near recon ball. Could come out as well. Looks the wrong side. And Giver just able to take that round. Clean it up for her team there.
Yeah, Giver gives, Giver also taketh away. And I mean, I think that was pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered as soon as we saw that, you know, she just did not have that much health to work with. 8 HP in the start, and then 5 at the end. Malvi just could not do all that much in that situation. It's a 1v2 as well, and they are holding a crossfire all the way at the bottom of Hell. 6-1 is the score right now. And Big Scythe is still steamrolling this. What do you think needs to be changed for Fury or Sierra, Grammy?
I think they so far, I think they have had players being isolated in certain places that they couldn't get out of. So a lot of times these opening picks are going the way of Big Scythe. So for Fia Eta Sierra, they have to really avoid that kind of situation from happening. They have to be able to play their trades really well here. But this time around, it seems like the side of Big Scythe, they are going to be going in for this B hit here, as the Blades are going to be popped by Yamori to take the side. But this time around, there's no one going to be playing towards Boathouse. So this is a change of pace for the side of Sierra, as Hunter's Fury is going to be used as well to counter Hunter's Fury. But FDR, they are going to be getting the better of that, as both Penny X and Malvi able to find 2, making this a 3v5 situation.
It's a change of pace, but it's also one that allows for Fear Eater Sierra to play something that they're more comfortable with, the retake scenario, and they just set it up perfectly. The Hunter's Fury, and then the collapse onto the side with Pishi, finishing things off with a headshot. Here we go now, 2-6. Is this the comeback that we are looking for?
It just might be, but they did have to invest at Hunter's Fury because, I mean, they knew what they were doing, because all of the members, they were playing offside. Even X2F, I believe, who was the Killjoy, he was playing towards CT, so she knows, she's aware that they do have that Hunter's Fury and that can come into play. So this Hunter's Fury, it can just cause so much chaos on the side and just kind of give the opportunity for Fear Eater Sierra to kind of push in onto the side. But this time around, it seems like we are going to be seeing a death ball of Big Scythe right here on towards the A side.
Potentially just a flash over to dash in, and now it's all up to Penmele to actually hold this. On the other side of Generator, though, she just doesn't quite have the space, and Big Scythe, they get to push in, they get to take control over the site itself. 3 players left on the other side of Fury to Sierra, and it's just tough for them to retake, even with the Killjoy attacking Lockdown now.
This Killjoy lockdown just makes things so much harder for the side of FTR, right? Because they have to respect this lockdown. They aren't able to go in and break it. Nor do they have that numbers advantage to be able to play their trades enough. But Margot, speaking of numbers advantage, Margot is going to be finding the head of Malvi. So even more so in the favor of Big Scythe right now as X2F. You can find one, but it's Afrolin and Crescents who clean up the round once again. 7-2 scoreline in favor of Big Scythe.
I mean, you talked about the death ball, and we definitely see it rolling, didn't we, Grammy? It just starts off with the dark cover to block off A main, but that's not solid cover. It allows for Big Scythe to actually pop flash through. They dashed in, they executed with all the utility that they had. I mean, starting things off, the Paranoia really made some positional displacement happen, and Pamela just wasn't quite ready for the push that was coming towards her. At the same time, once they had control over the site, the retake was so tough for Fury Eater Sierra because they did not have the numbers. I think the way that they've been dropping in so far just doesn't give them any tactical advantage whatsoever. Every single time, right, we start to see them go in for some duels, and that's when we start to see them actually lose out in terms of numbers, because Big Scythe, it's a 5-3. They have the traits that can come in that quickly, that easily, as long as they play off contact of each other. 7-2 right now, and Fear Eater Sierra desperately need to switch things up. The one round that they actually won, if you remember, apart from the one that they won on round 3, was when they actually played retakes, right? The one with the Hunter's Free from Penny X.
Yeah.
It's something that kind of signals to us that it was only possible because of that initial Hunter's Fury. They don't have that right now. So what else could they actually do to come back into this game?
I mean, I do think that the retake worked out well enough for them. So if they aren't able to win their initial gunfights, I do think they might want to look to play for these retakes instead of having a few players isolated on the side, which Big Scythe are just able to take out pretty easily so far. So maybe this time around they might want to go for a more numbers to have the numbers in their favor, like maybe a 5v5 situation kind of retake. But
Ooh.
it is once again Malvi who's able to find, Yomori able to find 2 kills, but not before X2F able to find 1 as well. But numbers advantage once again in favor of Big Scythe. I don't think this is what Fear Eater Sierra are looking for right now.
It's 2 + 2 is 4, -1, that's 3. Quick maths. Now it's down to 2. This is definitely not the numbers advantage that they were looking for.
Oh, Yomori already picking up 4 kills to her name, finding the head of Peachy right there. Might be looking for this ace as the spike is gonna be planted down on this ace side here. It's Margot with the Paranoia. Unfortunately, Penny X to spot her out because she was a little too close for comfort, but Giver with that support from the recon bot from Afrolin, just able to find the wall bang onto the final player on the side of Fear Eater right there. So things are not looking good for them right now. If they really want to have a chance to come back in this map, they have to be able to either win the opening duels. If not, they have to kind of switch things up, try and go in for maybe...
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I agree that they need to switch things up, but opening duels is something that they've been trying so far now, and it does not work out because we saw it happen right in B main in the previous round. The one thing that they haven't done, though, is taking active map control. If they can come in with a big flank, they could turn things around. And right now, Pitchy is actually doing so much with the Sheriff. She's able to find 2, but not before Efferly pushes forward with the trade, ignoring that fragment. Once again, Big Scythe in control over the site.
They do pick up one of the Vandals from... that was fallen though, and the Blade Storm in play as well, so the Outros could come out and get a little bit of information to where the players of Big Scythe are going to be playing this post plant right here. It is going to be a 3v2, make that a 3v2 as Margot finds the head of Malvi right there. So Penny X and Pen Melee remaining. They do know where some of the players are as Pen Melee finds a really clean headshot onto Margot, but Giver is, as you mentioned, Giver giveth and Giver taketh away. That's 2 lives gone from side of Fear Eater Sierra right there. So it was a pretty good hold from Peachy right there. She did so much damage for her team.
Yeah, but unfortunately still just not quite enough. I mean, if you break down the micro plays of that, it's really because Peachy could hear those footsteps. She knew that that death ball was rolling towards her, and she was prepared to take some of those duels. if Fury Eater actually plays more to that style, that approach, they might be able to gain that numbers advantage that they are so desperately looking for. But that said, this is now the last round of the first half, and Big Scythe are switching things up. The fast approach, down middle, down straight to market. And I'm not sure if Fury Eater Sierra is prepared for this.
I don't think. Oh, this time around is Peachy with that pop flash and to find 2 for herself. But Margot with that trade X2 F trying to turn things around as well, finding the pick onto Yamori. And suddenly this time around it's gonna be numbers advantage in favor of here Ita Sierra right now, as the players of Big Scythe they're not really able to do anything at all, as Penmele able to find Avril and the spike down as well for the side of here Ita Sierra. So it's the final player remaining, Margot, but don't count her out just yet because she's been so strong in playing this so far, and she's able to find the first pick onto Penmele, pick up the spike as well, has the From the Shadows to work with.
Still, though, this gives a position away. Malvai hiding inside of Wine. It's the last thing that Margot expects, and it's an easy pickup as she swings, spots her head, flicks the crosshair, and picks up the 3rd win for Fury Eater Sierra.
I mean, we all know of the infamous 9-3 curse, right? So do you think will we see it come into play here?
I think it really comes down to how Fury Eater Sierra actually switches things up, because so far what we've been seeing is they're not getting these opening duels. They are not quite able to find bits of map control. In fact, they constantly lose it because they lose their opening duels. And along with that, numbers advantage is always given to Big Scythe, and that's just the 3-9 that we have at our hands right now. If Fury Eater are to come back, they are going to need to smash and really just keep on top of Big Scythe at all times, which is not an easy task. Looking at how Big Scythe has been playing so far, they have the potential to play aggressive. They have the potential to switch things up and to find different ways to approach map control. If they can do the same thing on defense, this might be a really quick 13 to, I don't know, 5 perhaps. And that said, I mean, no shade or anything to Fury Sierra. They are still a really strong team, but it comes down to this first pistol round of the second half, Grammy.
Yeah, I do think if Fury to Sierra, they're able to set that pace from the get-go, they might have a chance to come back into this, because so far, I do think switching over to the attacking half, that means the attackers now, they have the chance to set this pace of the game, right? Which is what Big Scythe have been doing so far. But if Big Scythe are able to just read that and get an initial pick quicker than the side of Fury to Sierra can, they might just be able to turn things around once again in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, I guess, simple math so far. Again, pistol round. If Big Scythe actually wins it, we're going to very likely see 11-3 right in front of our eyes. If it's not Big Scythe picking up the pistol, though, then Fury Eater Sierra stands a pretty good chance. I mean, that's a likely 5-9. If they can win the bonus as well, that's even more momentum gained by Fury Eater Sierra, and that's really what they're looking out for right now, which is why this pistol round is so crucial for Fury Eater Sierra. And not just that as well. This is Fury Eater Sierra's map pick, Remy. If they don't win this and they go over to Icebox, Big Scythe's map pick, that's gonna be painful.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the second map is gonna be Fracture, which is the pick of Big
Fracture,
Scythe.
excuse me.
yeah. I mean, if they don't pick up this map of Ascent, it's gonna be really difficult for them, because so far Big Scythe have looked incredible on Fracture, especially. So they really need to pick this map up if they want to have, I think, a fighting chance. But I mean, it all, as you mentioned, Quack, it all comes down to this how the side of Fear Eater are gonna be playing this pistol round by here. But speaking of that, it's Yamori who finds that first pick, but Peachy with the trade, with the classic though, you to find her as well. So numbers are still evened out right now, but it seems like the orb control is gonna be gained by the side of your Ita Sierra. But Crescent's trying to go aggressive with that Frenzy, not doing too well, because definitely Frenzy is not a long range weapon, but it's Aphrodite who is able to get that trade on to Penny X instead.
So pretty default approach. They find the picks, they baited the rotations over, and now they are the ones rotating all the way over onto the A site. They will be able to get the drop on them, but still, planting the spike takes about 3 to 4 seconds, which would allow Big Scythe to set up for these positions. Margot, though, getting a little bit eager. She taps away, but only brings Pishy down to about 38. Margot is still at a very fatal 19, and this could be it.
Peachy able to pick up the kill onto Margot as well, clean her up, and it's Pen Melee with that final kill altogether. So the pistol is gonna go the way of Fear E to Sierra, who have, I guess, in that pistol round, I think Big Scythe, they were a little bit over eager, right? We see like I think a little bit of overextension coming out from Crescents and Margot especially, but I mean, so far it's been looking good for them. So this next round, I do think that what Big Scythe are trying to do, they're just gonna try and get as many guns off the hands of the side of FDR as possible.
Yeah, it's just straight up
Cool.
save. And in
But
fact, they've stacked up on the A
What?
sites.
This is really interesting for them, and it seems like it's gonna be a 4-man flank coming in for the side of Big Scythe. So free side control is gonna be given to the side of FDR. They're gonna be planting the spike onto this B site.
Yeah, see, when it comes down to something like this, it's definitely important for Big Scythe to overwhelm any isolated members, and they just found that in the form of X2F. This gives them a Spectre, at least, to work with. Meanwhile, FTR, they're starting to move around as well.
Yeah, that is true. Malvi playing from CT. I don't think any of the players are expecting to kill, but it's Peachy who finds 2 kills to her name. Afterland and Crescents both fall as it's Malvi and Pamela to clean up the round. So far, I mean, this is exactly what they're looking for, right? There's one Spectre lost in the process of all of that. So coming into this bonus round, I think FDR they do stand a pretty good chance if they are able to play these weapons of theirs in their favor and with their utility as well. Will we see FDR, would they be able to force Big Scythe into playing these close angles, which really favor the Spectre here?
Yeah, which is why we kind of want to see Big Scythe playing something a little bit more conservative as well, right? But going in for info plays right now, Yomori kind of senses that the hit is coming towards A. She backs up and makes the call. You can see the rotations coming through.
Yeah, and once again, it is going to be a death ball rolling onto the A side, but this time around it's going to be big FDR who are going to running that death ball, but unfortunately for them, 2 members on the side of FDR are going to be falling down. Make that 3 as Crescent picks up another kill onto Peachy right there. 2v4 situation right now as Crescent once again headshot onto Malvines all up to X2F has a ghost to work with, and the spike is lost to her as well. For all 4 members looking her way, and it's Yamori with the off angle to clean up the round onto X2F, bringing the scoreline to a 10 to 5.
And that is Big Scythe, the first team to reach double digits. If they can win the next round as well, it is a very likely match point for them, because that will shatter Fear Eater Sierra's economy on this round. If they can win it, it's going to be that much more difficult for Fear Eater Sierra to come back from, which is why they really, really need to play this round very carefully. Looking at them, though, they're setting up for a B hit, and we've got 3 players already positioned to push into B main. The turret already taken out, Grammy.
Turret taken out, and the alarm bot from Big Scythe is so aggressive as well. But speaking of aggressive, Yamori once again with that peek out of that dark cover to find that first pick, and Crescents able to catch Malvi off guard as well. So the rotations are going to be coming in towards mid, but X2F and Peachy both pick up 2 kills of their own, but not before Yamori has something to say about it. So right now, numbers advantage is going to be in the favor of Big Scythe with X2F down to 14 health.
Yeah,
but
not to mention map control as well. I mean, taking a look at this, it's all too clear for Big Scythe. They know the rotations are coming through because Giver has already pushed out of B main. They can sense that mid is clear, B is clear. There's only one other spot that Fear Eater Sierra could be.
That is true, and that is going to be the A main position. It's Crescent who spots X2F out right there. 0 point comes through to stall time as well. Apparently finds that pick on the Crescents, but Yomori is there for the trades all up to X2F. 14 health to her name, but there is a flank in the form of Giver coming in right now, and she finds the head of X2F, bringing the scoreline to 11-5. And Big Scythe, they're really looking dominant right now.
All too clean and all too telegraphed. They already knew what to do as soon as the rotations were underway from Fear Eater Sierra. I mean, this round was kind of like a little bit of shock when we're seeing players like Yamori push out and go aggressive with these duels, and also a little bit of awe as we start to see the last player X2F getting executed in such a fashion. Like I was talking about, economy not looking too good for Fear Eater Sierra right now because they lost the previous round, which is very likely for Big Scythe to gain match point on.
Yeah, definitely. They only have these pistols to work with. Three sheriffs. They do have that blade storm that's gonna be coming into play though. But Yamori, operator in hand, trying to go in for this A main peak, waiting for any play to cross her sideline. But it is Crescent who is gonna be making first contact here onto Malvi. But Margot is there for the trade. Padmele does have something to say about it though, but she's down to 5 health to her name. I don't think she expects Avril to be playing in this dark cover though.
Maybe not quite, but her priority is just to hit the site and get the spike down, clear out as much as possible. Taking off that one head gives them so much more control because now only 2 players remain. Of course, though, Nanostorm in, and that just blocks things out even further. Attacking Lockdown just to push Big Scythe back. They might be able to take a little bit of time, but still, it comes down to these duels. Will Big Scythe be will they actually be able to push up front to take out the numbers?
I mean, Padmele is really low on health though, so this is definitely a really doable round if Big Scythe play is right. And Giver and Evelyn already finding 2 pigs, and it's all up to Penny X. Does have a Vandal to work with, but unfortunately for her, Giver is gonna be getting the better of that, which brings Big Scythe to their match point on the first map of Ascent already.
Match point. I talked about it, and we definitely see it happen. Not to mention that operator being picked up again and handed over to Yamori. Such a big and devastating weapon. And even with the full buy coming off of the save from Fear Eater Sierra now, it's going to be so tough for them to actually come back into the game. Every single round from this point forward has to be flawless, Grammy.
That's true. They don't have anything. They don't have any more buffer rounds to work with right now. So if they really want to bring this into overtime, they have to go 7 rounds in a row. But it is once again Yamori who's making the first contact here. Unfortunately for her, he's gonna Malvi's gonna be Jacob peeking that though. But
I mean, if you actually break this down, a single shot from Yamori blocks off B. The dark cover towards B lobby blocks off mid. And just like that, Fear Eater Sierra, they don't have any map control. X2F is even afraid to push out. Their only option right now is to walk straight through A main. And I'm pretty sure Big Scythe is expecting that. Hence, they're playing defensive positions right now just to set up for the retakes. They've got all the ultimates under their bag. Crescents will be able to start things off with a null command, but okay, X2F, a bit of a lurk. She's able to take out one, but then the trade comes back in.
Yeah, that is true. Crescents, as you mentioned, still has a null command to work with, and that I do believe that is exactly how they are going to be playing this round right here, as the Blaze Storm is being popped by Yamori as well. So
look at Pichi.
Oh, I don't think they're expecting PG here. She finds 1 and 2 onto Evelyn and Giver, but Malvi finds 1 as well, and it's a really well played round coming out of Fear Eater Sierra right there. I don't think they were expecting the positioning from Peachy.
Truly well played. I mean, who does that, Grammy? Most of the time when you see players go in for control over the site, they start to set up post-plant positions. You might be expecting spots like Generator, Hell maybe, but definitely not all the way to the back of Gelato there. You just don't expect that to happen. Of course, this keeps Fear Eater alive for one more round, but again, whatever the economy might be right now, all it takes is one round for Big Scythe to finish things off.
Yeah, I think in the previous round, you have to give credit to Penny X as well, who was kind of baiting the shots out for Peachy to make that play right there. So this time around, Big Scythe, they're not really gonna have the economy to work with here. Spectre in the hands of Margot, so she might be able to do a little bit of damage with that, but Fear E to Sierra, they're gonna be playing this a little bit more default. Crescent's that 0 point is gonna be scanning out two players on the side of FTR though.
And FDR right now just trying to be very careful about it. They know they can't afford to drop a single one of their weapons right now. Playing very conservatively, they try to bait out some rotations, dumping a bit of utility over onto the B site. But Big Scythe are not budging. In fact, take a look at this off angle that Margot is playing right now. Not to mention Yamori coming in from Garden. Zero information.
Oh, the tailwind comes through, but it's Yamori and Margot with this crossfire who are able to get the better of that. But Mavai has something to say about it. 3 kills already to her name of that Phantom. That shot onto Yamori was really, really clean as well. And the side control goes the way of your Etisir. They are going to be playing this post plan with the spike down on this A side. And Evelyn and Crescents both only have sheriffs to work with.
Slowly making their way through. They're trying to slam them down coming from the above. A bit of a waterfall perhaps, but instead it trickled down all because of the opening shot from Alvi. And 7 to 12, we start to see signs of life from Fear Eater Sierra.
Oh, once again, I'm still like in awe that flick from heaven onto this choke point from Garden is just insane, and it just goes to show how well these the mechanics on these players, how strong the mechanics on these players are. But this time around, it's gonna be a full buy round for both teams though, so this is really, really crucial round for FTR to be able to win.
Yeah, still really crucial. A single round is all it takes. And Big Scythe now playing incredibly defensive. A single spray because she heard the initial hops from before. And that's a star fragger for Fear Eater Sierra gone. And with that numbers advantage as well, they might just be trapped in towards A lobby and towards B lobby. And that does not bode well for FTR.
Yeah, definitely. Big Scythe, I do think they want to be playing this retake though. They do have the Hunter's Fury and the Lockdown Adder ready, but Pamela has something to say about it. Peachy as well, as they find two for the troubles right there. Now come on, gonna be popped on the side of FTR as well, but I don't think Pamela was expecting that, as she's trying to poke her way onto the side. Margot as well behind Peachy already, so the spike is gonna be going down on this A side. But X2F with this late, will she be able to do any damage at all as the paranoid comes through? Unfortunately, unable to find Penny X as she finds the head of Margot right then. X2F able to find one as well, so it's all up to Avrolin right here. Takes out both the Owl Drone and the turret. Finds one. Is she able to find a second? Unfortunately for her, X2F gets the better of that. So it's 8 points on the board for the side of FTR right now. They're really showing signs of life, and they want a fighting chance back into this map, right? So they're not giving an inch up to the side of Big Scythe at all.
Absolutely. What we're starting to see, in fact, as we wind back to the little exchange towards the middle, if you remember that, Big Scythe are starting to get a little bit more eager. They start to peek out a lot more coming from defense. Meanwhile, FTR are just holding defaults every single time. As long as they're expecting the push, they are able to find that trade. And that does not give Big Scythe that much of an advantage. That said, though, because Avrolin saved up on her ultimates, Big Scythe still has a really strong potential at using counter utilities for whatever Fear Eater Sierra might have this round. They're playing again another default and waiting for some pushes coming in from Big Scythe. But if Big Scythe continues to play really defensively, they will be able to time down this clock.
Yeah, that is definitely true, especially if they do have so much utility and ultimates to work with this time around as well. So this FTR, they really have to be able to find just any one opening pick on just any position, but it is gonna be the attacker
Oh, it's
kills the lockdown going down on this B side, but the spike is still
Yamori.
be going towards the A side. Though Yumori not buying this fake as at all, as she's still playing on A. You're able to find that first pick onto Penny X, and that completely shuts down the advance, the execute of the big
What?
side that FDR have towards this A side. So Pamela gonna be using this from the shadows towards this B side, which they do have full control of right
Uh-oh.
now. Oh, this lockdown coming out from Giver though is really aggressive.
X2F. The whole team is just disjointed. There are only 2 players and they are all backed up because of this lockdown. X2F as well as Pishy, as much as they want to support this, they can't. They just don't have the initiative anymore.
They
This
just
is it.
aren't able to do anything. Oh, XYF knows that she has to make a move right now, but unfortunately, she is gonna be taken out, and Big Scythe Giver, it is gonna be Giver with that defuse. So Big Scythe are gonna be picking up the first map of Ascent here.
And just like that, I mean, it was. I'm not gonna lie, like the whole thing looked really back and forth, especially with Fear Eater Sierra starting to play more of that default, more of that. That conservative approach where they are able to find duels against Big Scythe because all they had to do was wait. But towards that last round, a bit of a fake with the lockdown, a bit of a second fake with the From the Shadows, they managed to keep Big Scythe on their toes, but when it came down to it, one defender lockdown was all it took to split up the squad from Fear Eater Sierra. I think they were the ones that were fearing the lockdown towards the end because they were just not able to come back and to defend that spike post plant.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I honestly didn't expect Giver to just run out on the side and just boop, my lockdown is right smack in the middle of that covers the whole side, and that just detains both players playing towards Boathouse. So they're just unable to do anything at all. And the remaining 2 players on the side of FDR, they were outside of the main right, and they were just unable to do anything at all as well. So it was just an amazing round coming out for Giver right there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Grammy, have you ever watched the Disney Plus series What If?
Oh, I have not actually.
Have you heard of it at least?
Yeah,
So
I have.
can make my point. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Because I mean, there are so many scenarios where we could see things happening differently. And I think X2F is one of those players who has done quite a phenomenal job on the anchoring. She was actually in a pretty good position. If she actually pushed out of that dark cover from B main, she might have been able to shoot down Giver. She might have been able to shoot down that lockdown. But because they backed off, unfortunately, they will lose that round. Moving forward, I mean, any guesses as to who the biggest MVP of Big Scythe could be?
I mean, all of them played phenomenally, but I have no idea. I
Because I
actually have
got
no
two
idea.
names in my head for sure, at least. I mean, Giver with that lockdown was definitely MVP of that round. But if we were just talking about pure numbers, Yamori and Margot especially, I think, are the ones that stand out to me for sure. But in fact, it's definitely going to be Yamori for Big Scythe.
Yeah, but on the side of FTR, it's gonna be Peachy though. She's been playing really well, especially that one round where Penny X was kind of baiting out the shots for her. She was able to capitalize off of that, and just like that, they won that round off of Peachy's 2 kills. So she has been pretty impactful, I would say, in this matchup as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this graph just really shows how much Big Scythe had in the form of a lead. I mean, taking a look from round 6 onwards, Big Scythe just leapt up because they were starting to chain in this win streak. And there was around that time where Fear Eater Sierra were just not quite able to defend whatever Big Scythe were throwing at them. Even if they tried to go into contest opening duels, they could not get it. It was only towards the second swap when Fear Eater Sierra were playing the attack a little bit more. That's when they started to find things, because all they had to do was to play that default, and they expected Big Scythe to go in with the aggressive peaks, aggressive duels. That said, though, coming down to it, the real reason why Big Scythe won was they had that huge lead. It was just that difficult for Fear Eater Sierra to come back into this once Big Scythe got that match point. And that is why Yamori, once again, our MVP of this match. She had so many first opening kills, first bloods, 42.9 percentage. That's a pretty high number, a pretty high statistic.
Yeah, I mean that just goes to show that almost half of the rounds Yamori was the kind of the playmaker, right? Because almost half the rounds the first blood went to her, and that means on the side of FTR they were just on the back, starting on the back foot for for the most part as well. They were gonna be playing a 4v5 situation no matter what, so it was really really tough for them as well.
Yeah, it's just not that easy for Fear Eater Sierra, unfortunately. And once again, this was their map pick. They just lost it. Moving forward, we're going to go straight into Fracture. Big Scythe map pick. Who knows how that's going to go? I mean, do you have any thoughts about that, Grammy?
I mean, so far, Big Scythe, their win rate on the map has been looking phenomenal, 80% win rate. So, unless FTR they pull some miracle, they pull some surprise strat out of the bag, they just might have the chance into coming back into this to bring us to map 3. But I guess we'll have to see. But right now, we're gonna go in for a short break. But stay tuned because the second map of Fracture will be coming up really really soon as well. Welcome back to stage 2 of the VCT Game Changers APAC series. For it is gonna be open overtime. It is gonna be the second match, the second game between Big Scythe and FTR Fear Eater Sierra here. I'm Remy with a Z, joined by Quack here today. How are you feeling after that first match?
I'm feeling good. I mean, at least for Big Scythe, I think Fury Eater Sierra also has a chance to actually come back because towards the end of the second half, we definitely saw signs of life in them. They can definitely come back into the game. I think they just got to get a little bit more aggressive.
That is true, but I mean, in terms of aggressiveness, they haven't really been picking up those initial duels though. Like those initial picks haven't been going their way, so I don't think just pure aggressiveness is the way for them here. They might want to try
Yeah.
to go for something more tactical, maybe play off information or a trade. But yeah, I think it really depends on their team comp is gonna be on a second map, especially.
I mean, there are just like so many different approaches that you can take. And the fact that this is going to be Fracture, I think, is something that gives them more options, right? Because four
Yeah.
sections of the map, maybe people go for control over A main, but then you still have 3 other areas that you can explore. And the main thing that I think for Fury Eater Sierra is that, like you mentioned, sometimes opening duels don't quite work out for them, but that's why you don't really go in for like just pure dry peaks. You got to go in with bits of utility. You got to have support from teammates, or perhaps just, like I mentioned before, like some of these rounds where they were able to steal them away from Big Scythe was when they managed to push out from other spots of the map, clear out the information, and make sure that they are able to set up big flanks to really sandwich Big Scythe into some dangerous spots. That said, though, again, Fracture, it can get pretty chaotic sometimes, and I think this is why Agent Select is something that we really need to hammer down on, because Big Scythe are the ones that get a little bit more maybe experimentative with this map.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, as you mentioned, I think that utility play has to come in as well for them. And I think what kind of ages do you think we're gonna see on this map? I just really want to see a neon.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ever since M1 Masters Victor from Optic, he really showed how strong Neon can be as an agent. And I mean, not just Victor as well. I think for one of the first teams to do it was, in fact, like Liquid, Xerxia even, who are, a Thai team after all. Fear Eater Sierra, it's a full Thai squad as well. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe they know each other. A lot of scrims could happen. We never know. But the thing is, those duelists, I think, are something that we have to keep an eye out for. And what we've seen so far in the past from Fury of Sierra, in fact, is the fact that they tend to go for Raze on Fracture, which is something that, could be good, but at the same time, it comes down to how you really time your paint shells and everything else. Neon is something that's a little bit more effective just because your fast lane gives you that much space. It allows you to close in the distance between your team and the site, and it's something that's really, really effective. So I think it's important for Fear Eater CR to actually think about ways to counter that kind of play.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Neon is super strong, especially on Fracture, because you with Neon and at fast lane, you can just get so many timings off, right? That means you can capitalize kind of capitalize off of that, because normal agents they aren't able to move as fast as Neon can. So if you are able to catch your enemies off guard because of that, you will be able to get that advantage. But speaking of agents, we are going to be heading into Agent Select very, very soon here. So we are going to be seeing what these teams have in store for us for this map of Fracture.
And once again, just keeping an eye out for some of these. Like I mentioned before, some of these teams, they get a little bit more creative with how they play the map sometimes. I think Chamber, Breach, maybe even Brimstone is more of a common pick nowadays. Excuse me, I can't speak words. Efferlin is the one that I'm actually really curious about because Sage on Fracture is a very specific pick, and it's one that has worked out before, but we also don't see it too often these days. And then at the same time, Pitchy with the KO on the other side of Fury or Sierra, that's another thing to think about as well.
Yeah, that's true. These I don't think we see a lot of these two agents on Fracture itself, but outside of that, it is gonna be a mirror matchup, just Afrolin and Peachy, one on Sage, one on KO. And I think it really comes down to how well they can really play this, because Big Scythe, they are gonna be starting on the defending side, so that Sage with the slow ops and the bear ops will probably be really, really useful here for stalling these pushes that the side of your Eta Sierra are able to
Hi,
come up
Sage.
with, especially with Neon and Breach.
You gotta go up close and personal. But yeah, I think this is something that we're gonna have to look out for. Of course, the neons, the breaches, pretty standard, but at the same time, look at how they're going for quick control. Just up over by Dish, an instant dink coming in from Margot.
And the Dink takes off so much health off of Malvi right then. It's X2F who has to get out, but it's Avril finds that first pickup on to the players of FTR right
my
now.
God.
X2F trying to respond in favor, but unfortunately for her, her team is just gonna be able to fall. It's just gonna fall over, and it's all up to Peachy 1v4 situation. Give us here the R being picked up by Giver right there, so able to pick that kill up. 1v3 right now. Is she able to isolate these remaining fights is the question. But the spike is gonna be out of her control.
Out of her control, out of her reach. It's just so tough for her to get close to that thing. She can't even smell it from this spot up over by tower because there are 4 players surrounding this. And Margot, unfortunately blinded, allows for Peachy to pick up an easy kill. That said, though, still 2 players on the other side, and she is down to red HP.
And it's just as both players on the side of Big Scythe are closing in, it's Avrilin who picks up the kill. 3 kills in a round for her right there. And the first pistol round going the way of Big Scythe once again. They have this initial momentum to be able to buy up the economy, to be able to buy up for full Spectres coming to this next round.
Yeah.
So this round, I think it really comes down to how much damage FDR are able to do
It's
on the
the
economy.
same thing that we're seeing from Ascent, right? But the thing is, what we're seeing from Big Scythe is evidence that they have prepared for this map several times. This is why their win rate is so high. Teams don't normally push out a dish that way. And because Margot did all that, along with support coming in from Crescents, it just forced FTR to disperse. And when something like that happens, they get exposed from behind. And right now, hiding inside of these corners, along with some of these weapons, they might be able to find 1 or 2, but Efferlin, she collects on all of those bodies, all of those frags, and more importantly, all of those ult points, plus the spike being dropped.
Out points, which means she's just 2 away from her ultimate. The resurrection can be so useful as well. But this time around, I think that aggression was really what gave the side of Big Scythe the opportunity to capitalize off of that, right? We see, I think it was Crescents, Afrolin, and Margot once again pushing out of, instead of Dish, this time it's A main. So because of that, they're able to get this control, even though Margot was taken out, it's still a really good situation for them, and it is
Oh no.
Pan who's gonna be
Oh,
stunned
what?
up, taken out. Athlin to pick up the 4 kills, finding Malvai hiding behind that wall, and
She
the second.
she
Oh,
fired off a
what?
right click, and they weren't like, wait, where did that come from? And then Evelyn turned around and I was like, oh, she's in the corner. I don't know why, but that just made me laugh for a second. But of course, it's a standard start for Big Scythe right now, and they're starting to build up on that economy purely because this was a near flawless round. I think they only lost Margot in round number 2. So moving on to the round number 3 right now, FTR. They just they're gonna have to get whatever they can find, and that's 2 bulldogs and 3 main rifles. They need to get a little bit more aggressive. They need to find some of these duels, but right now, with the way that they're holding, I'm not sure if they have it in them.
Yeah, I really agree with that point of they have the fact that they have to find these duels. Maybe not so much duels, but the information, the early information that they were able to
Oh,
get
that's a
on
duel.
the defense. But it's Giver who's we going to getting this first pickup, but X2F with 2 kills to her name already with that Vandal pushing her way onto the side, and side control is gonna go the way of FTR right now. So I think it's just pretty standard stuff so far as the retake is gonna be coming through for the side of Big Scythe. Some running gun action coming out from Afrolin right there. Picks up one for herself and Margot as well. But
Oh,
unfortunately for her, the numbers is just not going to be in the favor of Big Scythe right now as FDR pick up the second round, but not before losing 3 rifles.
it's really interesting because these two teams are almost opposites of each other. One gets a little bit more eager and aggressive, meanwhile the other tends to be a little bit more composed at times, and sometimes that leads to their downfall. And of course, I'm talking about Big Scythe being a little bit more aggressive and FTR being a little bit more composed. The one difference, though, like you mentioned, information was key. Because Pan Melee was actually able to jiggle peek a little and find players towards tower, they knew that they could slam into the B site along with players like X2F with the slides and whatnot. Right now, though, just going straight back into the B side, it's the overdrive that kind of causes her to get a little bit too blindsided by Afrolin. 2 quick kills, and right now she's anchoring things down like nobody's business.
Already picking up 2 kills to her name. That's so strong for her, and this forces FDR to have to rotate back towards the A side where the operator of Giver is watching and waiting right now, but it's Crescent who finds that pick up onto Penny X right there towards drop. I don't think they're really expecting this operator coming out from Giver, able to find that pick up onto Malvai and rendezvous back to safety, and it's Yamori with that final kill. Flawless round coming up from Big Scythe.
Yeah, unfortunately, aggression was good, but it wasn't quite controlled, and they just ran straight into Afrolin. As soon as they made the rotation again, we saw this before on Ascent, is all too clear, and Big Scythe just reads the situation perfectly, like a book, like an open book. And right now, 3-1, once more, we see FTR backs against the wall. They just don't have the economy to climb back into these rounds.
Yeah, that is true. And immediately, this relay ball is gonna come through towards this B side, but they're gonna be playing this a little bit slower this time around. Is Pichu able to find that first pickup onto Yamori? Giver trying to go in for that trade, but unfortunately, unable to find anything at all. So that's 1 rifle down on the side of Big Scythe right now. But it's too far. It's just too deep that they're unable to find it at all. And Giver picks up the kill onto Malvai right there. Penmile trying to find whatever she can, but unfortunately for her, she's gonna get spotted out by Crescent from this A position.
I mean, just hark back to map control, right? We saw the wall being set up and it just blocks off so much. Meanwhile, so much presence on the A site that the only option could be B, and Margot is just prepared for this. The incendiary. Do you dare to walk through the fire and the flames, Pidgey? Clearly she doesn't, as she swings back, finds Crescents, but Giver, once more, shuts that down. 4-1 in favor of Big Scythe.
I mean, there was a Ecoron coming out on the side of Fiorita Sierra, and Peachy able to find 2 pickups, so it's, I think, pretty good in their favor right there. And they are gonna have, as the ultimate cycle comes online, most of the players here, they are gonna be 1 or 2 points away from the ultimates. Peachy has the null command at the ready to be able to kind of execute onto the side, right? And Malvai as well, one away from that rolling thunder.
There is that potential, but still, you're gonna have to pick it up before you actually send out that rolling thunder. And if we take a look at the mini-map, so much control being gained by Big Scythe just because they refuse to sit still. They call the hit coming towards B, and now they set up for that big old flank. It's absolutely crucial that FTR takes control of the side, and they just did. Finding those 2 picks gives them a lot more space and control.
Yeah, I think FTR, they really recognize the push and pull of them, but this time around, Margot trying to go in aggressive once again, gonna get stunned up by the relay ball to kind of slow her advancement towards tower. And it's X2F who picks up that kill. Crescent's ready with this fault line, but his family finds out the kill onto Aphrodite. It's X2F who cleans up the round onto Crescent as well. So, I mean, looking at the 6-4 scoreline, to be fair, is pretty good for coming in for FDR, especially on the attacking half, where I think they would set this pace of the game, right? And so I guess it just kind of really comes down to how these teams are gonna be able to play, but it is gonna be a full buy round for both teams this time around. But Penny X has the half shields though.
That said, interestingly enough, if you take a look at what's happening on the mini-map, a big firefight happening towards bench. But oh my god, X2F, 2 quick headshots back to back. And this just might have broken up the B site for FTR. They might just be able to push on through, but at the same time, Big Scythe, they're kind of just hiding, lying in wait inside of some of these sky smokes.
One enemy remaining.
Definitely right here, but it's Crescent who picks up 2 kills onto X2F and Pet Melee right there. So Peachy's trying to go in aggressive, but unfortunately he's gonna get stunned up by that fall line to stall her a little bit. The spike is not in her control as well. This is looking like a repeat from one of the previous rounds, and it's Margot who finds the headshot kill onto Peachy right there to clean up the round.
And just like that, Big Scythe earned that 7th win, which pretty much gives them a solid lead as they move forward into the second half. This, at the very least, go 7-5. At most, they could go 8-4. And once more, it tells us so much about how prepared Big Scythe are for this map.
Yeah, definitely. They've had so much experience playing this map, right? And I guess as well with experimenting with different team compositions, this is kind of the one they have picked up for today. But it is gonna be the fall line coming out to kind of stall Penny X's. I believe it was Giver's peak from this main position, so she's gonna have to rendezvous back towards safety.
I mean, an instant fast lane down, and all of a sudden FTR, who have been slamming down the B site several times already, they're not doing it anymore. In fact, they've pushed in to gain control over A main, but if you take a look at how Big Scythe are positioned, they're just waiting for them to walk forward. Crescent, earlier before, she was hiding inside the sky smokes. This time around, she's just perched up on top of tower, and she's able to find 2 quick frags. The res coming in from Efrelin now, and that's, again, big numbers advantage for Big Scythe.
I mean, definitely right now 3v5 situation, and Spike once again not in the control of FTR as Margot trying to go aggressive here. I don't think that she really knows where the positions of these players are, but this fault line is gonna stall them even more so as Margot going so aggressive, hiding in the sky smoke right here. I think X2F kind of recognizes this and has to respect this. Able to capitalize off of that as Penny X picks up a kill with that headshot onto Aphrodite as well, evens out the numbers. This is really in the favor of FTR right now. Penny is still waiting for the position and drop, has the opportunity strike at the ready as well. So if they do get the spike down, she's just kind of she's able to use that to her favor. But Crescent has the rolling thunder at the ready, trying to delay this plant from going down.
5 seconds.
Oh, this is so close.
Oh no!
Teams, but unfortunately for them, unfortunately for the side of FTR, they are gonna be able to get that spike down.
And now it's all up to Giver. She's got the tour de force. How crisp can her aim be at these final moments? 3 players, 3 different positions, and she spots out the first. Slowly creeps up front now. But it's a tough position to look out for because it's a bit of a crossfire, and Penny X just lines up the crosshair perfectly to take her down as she walks straight into it. What a play coming in from FTR, especially with the Brimstone and the Orbital Strike just waiting for the perfect moment, even with the Rolling Thunder to deny that spike plant.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Orbital Strike just came in at the right time to stall the 2 players on the side of Big Scythe from coming in to support the Neon right there. So I think that was kind of what won them the round, because Neon slid in, no backup, and just like that, she was able to FTR were just able to take her down, which means that it was just a tough situation for Big Scythe from the get-go.
You can kind of see it happening both ways, right? Because this is how Big Scythe tends to play. They kind of had the advantage really early on, and they maybe got a little bit overconfident, hubris perhaps. They started to go out hunting a little bit because the spike was dropped, and they walked straight into players like Panny X as well as X2F. And once things like that happened, they were able to swarm down the site. They were able to try to get the spike planted. Of course, Big Scythe had perfect idea for it too, with Crescents and the Rolling Thunder. But more often than not, when you do send a Rolling Thunder, your initial instinct is to just follow it through. Like, you have to go in along with the timing of that to be able to secure the kills or to just prevent them from getting the spike planted even after getting knocked out. Because, of course, like we saw, Penny X could still actually get that spike planted. What they did not expect, what they had zero clue about, zero information, was Pan Melee just hiding all the way up on drop for the longest time ever. If Pan Melee made a single mistake, a single sound, things could have been really different.
Yeah, that is true, and that is just kind of what won them the round right there with that Orbital Strike as well. I think the timing of all that utility was just so really, really insane to watch right there. That the Rolling Thunder coming through, and then Padmele, upon recognizing this Rolling Thunder, okay, these players are gonna be pushing on towards the side. That means I have to time my Orbital Strike right here, right now, to be able to either cause as much damage as possible or try to stall the players of Big Scythe from coming in.
Yeah, it's just, again, incredible utility usage and incredible plays and reads coming in from FTR, especially towards those final moments. However, once again, this is Big Scythe with the lead, 2-round difference. And if they can secure the pistol, this might still be a really precarious position for FTR to be in. This is Big Scythe's map pick, and now they are on the attacking side, a side which they might actually look a little bit more comfortable on. And along with the Stim Beacon now, we're about to go Stim E-Turner as they rush down into the A site. Not a single player to be able to defend. And just like that, spike planted.
Yeah, the spike plant is gonna go down. As 300 credits in the bag for Big Scythe right there. They do have the numbers advantage as well coming into this post-plant situation, so it really comes down to how much value FTR can find out of weaponry right here. But unfortunately for Fanny X, it's not gonna be much, because Giver is gonna be taking her out with that hit hunter right there. Yamori picks up the kill with the frenzy onto XOF as well, and as the straights come in, it is going to be a 1v2 situation here for Malvi, but unfortunately for her, Margot is going to be getting the better of that situation. So once again, pistol round going the way of Big Scythe.
I mean, yeah, what a round and what a way to win it. The Stim Beacon and just every single player on the team on the same page, rushing down into the site. Pan Melee had no idea what hit her, and she was the only one who could have possibly stalled down the approach on the A site. At the same time, I really want to point out, I think this is why we see Atheline on the Sage. This one wall actually gives them so much cover as they approach on forward, because you need to shoot down those panels before you're actually able to gain more vision. Right now, though, oh god, X2F just running it down. Unfortunately, gets taken out by Crescents, and this does not look good for FTR right now, if I'm being honest, Grammy.
Yeah, definitely, because they
Oh
are just gonna
god.
get run down by the Spectre running gun right there. It's all up to Penny X. Still has 6 bullets in the chamber of that hit hunter of hers though. So it really comes down to how much damage once again she can do right here. But the spike is gonna be planted on this A site.
One player, several rounds with a headhunter, but I just don't think she can quite do all that much. Look at that triple peek along with the flashpoint from Crescents. Big Scythe are in sync. They are here to play, and 9-5. How could this full buy round go for FTR? Like, what do they need to do in order to hold off Big Scythe and their insane rushes right now?
I mean, once again, it's just this death ball that's been rolling for Big Scythe on the attacking half on Ascent as well. We did see a couple of rounds of that coming through, but I think this time around, FDR, they really have to be able to find those crucial picks that will just delay this push from coming through, especially maybe like a Neon who's able to rush onto the site, or maybe the Breach who's able to kind of stall you from your movement and stuff like that. But it is Penny X who's gonna be finding that initial pick. The backup coming in from Afrolin though, able to find Peachy.
But yeah, again, like, this is what I'm talking about. This wall just blocks off so much. And FTR having a tough time trying to break through. Give her playing close range as well. The Spectre did quite a bit as X2F tried to find some kind of an opener. Right now, just walking on through the fast lane, everything blocking so much vision. FTR might have made their way onto the site, but will they actually be able to hold off Big Scythe as they try to push down through? They've got positions over by tower. They've got positions over by the generator. But here comes the tap from X2F. In fact, she's just trying to bait out the peaks. They're pushing up front. They're able to take her down. Movi, she can't do all that much on her own. And with Big Scythe surrounding all of them, they take the 10th win. And also the bonus round, Grammy. 10-5 right now. And again, economy in shambles for Fear Eater Sierra.
Yeah, that was a really crucial round for Fear Eater Sierra right there to win. And I think on the side of Big Scythe, they really played that so well. They used that fast lane to get in close range to the players of Fear Eater Sierra, right? That means the Spectres were gonna be just super effective against the players of Fear Eater Sierra, right there, because with the Spectre, you want to be playing those close range gunfights right there. But speaking of close range, it is gonna be a longer sideline coming out from this A main position is gonna give away some information. Peachy's 0 point scanning out 2 players on the side of Big Side, but the spike is gonna be going towards this B side where they're gonna be getting this spike down though, and Penny X falls to Margot as well. That's a side given completely for free, but Yomori still trying to cause chaos on the A side. Finds one for her troubles, but Peachy with that Bucky able to take her out.
A little bit of chaos and one Vandal donated over onto FDR's side. They're still trying to go in with this retake though, but again, take a look at this wall. I have to compliment it so much. Afrolin, the perfect placement of it just blocks off so much, because all of a sudden the one clear route for FTR to rotate through defender spawn, they just can't walk through it, which means they have to go through this one spot by Canteen, and it's very telegraphed. They knew she's coming from this spot, but what? Give her! She whiffed! Unfortunately though, just bought enough time, and even with that frag, Big Scythe claims the 11th win.
Okay, honestly, I have to really give credit to X2F, right? That those initial 2 Marshall headshots were just insane enough, but the third one, she wasn't even looking at Giver, right? She was
turned around 180.
Turned around and was like, oh, there you are. And that was just so insane. And right now, this coming round, she is gonna have that overdrive available for her to use, but it is going to be 11 rounds in the bag already for Big Scythe, so one more round to the match point, just one step closer to closing out the series as well.
It's not just any round either, Grammy. Take a look at the economy on the side of the FDR players. If they don't make this one work, if they don't make use of their ultimates, their economy is going to be absolutely smashed to bits, broken for match point, and you just don't want to have that happen, which is why they're playing really conservatively right now. I love that she's pushing out as well, though. She's able to find 2 heads. Maybe not a frag yet, but this is information enough for FTR.
Yeah, this is just like FDR taking a page out of Big Scythe's
Oh, what?
book, right? But unfortunately,
Yamori!
Yamori's ace, he's just able to find that pickup onto Peachy right there.
From the
So
ropes.
she's gonna be evening out the numbers for her team right now, as the spike is gonna be making its way
Oh,
back
no.
towards the ace side. Margot going to try and go in for
Oh, no.
this jump peak right here. And
So
it's
this is
just-
the thing. With that one frag from the zipline, how do you possibly read the game state if you were X2F right now? Yes, she's got the overdrive, but can she make use of it? She pops the high gear, but no! Just a little bit of movement, and unfortunately Afternoon was right underneath her nose. A bit of a res as well, and now they've got everything going right for them. FTR forced all the way back. How do they retake this, Grammy?
Once again, it's this wall that you mentioned coming into play. This retake is going to be so hard for them, especially with this crossfire coming through from Dish and Amy. But the Rolling Thunder is going to be coming through from the side of FTR, knocking out a few players. Margot is not going to get stunned though, but Incendiary is going to deal some damage to her, but she finds one for her troubles anyway right there. So it's 2v2 situation right now. Still unsure of where these players are, and Yamori would find a pickup onto Penny Eggs. Malvai with the trade, but Yamori fires back, bringing Big Scythe to their match point.
Positioning along with that wall, an artificial corner, not to mention Yamori, the secondary target right behind that thing, just made it all that much more difficult for that 2v2 scenario to be winnable for FTR even. And here we are, match point 12-5. Such a steep climb. Even with X2F saving her ultimate for this specific scenario, I don't know how they can claw all their way back from this. It's such a tall task ahead of them, but they have to try.
They really do have to try, and immediately X2F with this overdrive coming online already, trying to go aggressive with this immediate flank. But I think the side of Big Scythe, they recognize this, and Margot immediately takes X2F down, but not before she's one health of her own. Yumori trying to go in aggressive to a CT, but unfortunately for her, Malvai and Penny X with the trades coming back up. Evens out the numbers once again. Nalcom gonna be popped by Peachy right there as they play this retake coming in from the CT side and arcade as well.
And even then though, a little bit of space, but once more that wall just blocks off so much. But thankfully this time around, FTR approaching from all different sides, a little bit over by bench, and all that's left is going to be Giver. A little bit of a fault line, and she's forced back for a second as well, but here comes the push. She goes in for the first trade, but no! Malvai! The second headshot just saves elimination away from FTR. We go into another round, and it's 12-6. 6 more rounds to go into overtime.
I mean, this was a really well played from both teams, but I mean, the economy, I think, is still not looking too good for the side of FTR, so they have to really be careful right here. They have to be able to not give too much away in terms of the numbers here, especially with Peachy picking up this judge. Just whatever she can find with this close range weapon right here. But it seems like Big Scythe, they really want to close this out as they're approaching from both sides towards this A position. Giver has to tour the force in hand as well.
If we take a look at the mini-map and how FTR are actually positioned, Grammy, they're hiding all the way behind. There's not a single person contesting for A main or the site itself. It's a bit of a retake scenario, and I'm not loving how this position might go. The fast lane can come through, the sky smokes as well, and it's easy for Big Scythe to take control over this site. The spike will be planted pretty soon. And again, a full 5-on-5 retake with not the best weaponry available for FTR. It's not looking too good. A bit of an orbital strike as well, though, and they just buy a couple of seconds. Spike planted, and now we're reset to 40 seconds. How do you retake this? How?
This is so difficult coming out of them, but X2F is trying to make it work. Picks up the first pick onto Margot already. Yamori trying to go in with this trade. 10 health to a name as well. Really what comes out to stall a little bit of time, and as the trades come through, it is going to be even out in terms of numbers, but X2F is really low on health. 21 health to a name. Gets picked off by Crescent and Peachy 1v1 situation here. Trying to go in aggressive, dinks the hit of Afrolin. Has to go in for this fuse. Oh! This is so close, but unfortunately just not enough time for Peachy right there. Time was just not in the favor of Peachy, and Big Scythe will be taking the second map and that series as well.
2-0 at the end of the whole thing, and once again, Big Scythe just show how much they've rehearsed, how much they've practiced on this map itself. We see how Afrolin sets up those walls, and in every single push, it's just so perfect. It blocks off so much, and unfortunately, towards the end, even though FTR were starting to adapt around it, they just weren't quite able to get that spike defuse. I mean, the frag was perfect as well, but unfortunately, just not enough time. I mean, if you break down how that round went, the wall has been something that they've been using like for several rounds now, and I think FTR started to expect it. That's why we saw them push through door instead. They might have tried to chip down the wall a little bit, but they weren't committing from that approach. They weren't committing from that front. Instead, A main was the focus point. That said, though, Yamori was able to hold them off for a second or two. And not to mention, when it came down to it, they just did not have enough time. And unfortunately, that's how this cookie crumbles.
Yeah, definitely. Yamori able to holding them off, just buying a fraction of time was so important for her team right there. And we are going to be heading into the match stats right now. So I think, who do you think this time around is going to be match MVP?
That's Afrolin. I mean, before it even comes up, I mean, you kind of have to think about it. I mean, X2F for sure. She had the highest numbers out of anyone on the scoreboard. But for me, MVP has to be Afrolin just because of those sage wall placements, just because she was able to anchor down a lot of sites on the defensive rounds as well.
Yeah, that is true, but I think we can't really count out X2F, right? She's been doing so much for her team, trying to get so much space as well by trying to go into close quarters to create that space for her team. And I guess just unfortunately for them, it was working out well on their attacking half, I believe. But unfortunately for them, once they got onto defense, Big Scythe, they were just setting the pace every single round that FTR they weren't able to keep up, especially with the sage walls throwing off the timing as well, because you have to chip down those individual blocks to be able to get back onto the site, right? And it's so difficult for them.
For sure, but I completely agree with you. X2F, I think she was one of the sole reasons why FTR were actually able to find that many rounds on their attacking half. FTR were able to get a 7-5 because of X2F. So many rounds with the fast lanes, the high gear as she slides onto site. That was one of the ways that FTR was actually able to counter Afrolin and maybe even Crescent's approach to anchoring down sites. That said, though, 7-5 is the most that they could get, and towards the end of it, Afrolin is the one who gets that MVP crown because she truly did so much once Big Scythe swapped over onto the second half. Every single round, we talked about it. Those walls, Sage actually is a pretty strong pick on excuse me, I almost said Ascent. It's a pretty strong pick on Fracture if you know how to make it work, and Afrolin clearly does.
Yeah, that is true, and just like that, she will be picking up the whole team. Big Scythe, in fact, will be picking up this series, so they will be heading into the lower bracket semifinals. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're right.
yeah, we're gonna be seeing them pretty soon. I think tomorrow, I believe.
Yes, we are, and that's gonna be against either L-Streaks or Zol Meraki. I believe that game is still ongoing right now. It's on the mainstream. People can check that out if they want to. But that said, unfortunately, really sad, we gotta sing Auld Lang Syne and send Fear Eater Sierra out of the tournament. They've been knocked out by Big Scythe. However, I mean, there's so much to talk about, right, Grammy? Like, we talked about X2F. She has such insane fragging potential, whether she's on Killjoy or she's on Neon. She can do everything. And not to mention Padme Lay in some of those rounds as well. We saw with the Orbital Strike. The entire team and so many of these girls have so much potential, which is why you're going to want to keep an eye out for the VCT Game Changers APAC, that's a mouthful, last chance qualifier, because some of these teams will still be able to qualify for VCT Game Changers APAC Elite from the last chance qualifier.